All right, so we've found our critical points. Our critical points are at -3 and 1. We did that through factoring and solving for x. Now what we're going to do is we're going to draw our test chart. So this is something that is not shown, well, it is shown on MyMathLab. You just have to walk through the process in order to find the max and the min, or the relative extrema. So what's going to happen is you're going to draw a number line. You're going to label it. Make sure you label it for first derivative, because again, we're going to add layers to this, and so you need to make sure that you know what each part represents. You're going to put your critical points on here. So make sure you put your critical points in the right order, because what we're doing is we're looking at the interval. We're looking at what's going on between, in this case, between -∞ to -3, between -3 and 1, and from 1 up to infinity. Okay, so each of those intervals, something's going to happen with the slope. Within the interval, it's going to stay the same. So if in this interval it's increasing, it's going to be increasing throughout the graph. At -3, we know, is when our slope goes to 0. So something happens, something changes. It may continue up, it may go to decreasing, whatever it is, we're going to find out. So we're going to draw a test chart, and we're going to test our critical points. So the way that we do that is we look for values somewhere in each interval. So this interval right here is between -∞ up to -3. It does not include -3. That's important, because remember, when we did our factoring, we found out that at -3 is where my slope goes to 0. Okay? All right, so we're just going to use any random value, something in that interval. Well, I'm going to use whatever's easiest. You can use -4, -5, -10. You could even use -1,000,000. Doesn't matter. You just pick a value that you think is going to be easy to use. Now, all we care about is whether it's increasing or decreasing. That's it. We don't care about the actual value. All we care about is whether our interval is increasing or decreasing. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to look here. You can plug -10 in here, but then you're evaluating and you're finding an actual number, which is fine. You can do that. Or you can look here, since it's already broken up for you. These are the same thing. If I were to multiply this out, I'd get this. So I can use this to see whether it's positive or negative very easily. This 3 is a positive. Make sure you keep it. Okay, it's going to be important. When I plug -10 into this term, -10 and -1 is a -11. Do I care about the 11 part? No. All I care about is the negative part. Okay? So when I plug -10 in here, I get -11. I get a negative value. When I plug -10 in here, I get -7. Again, I get a negative value. So now when I multiply these, a positive times a negative times a negative, what that tells me is that whole interval is positive. So in this interval, I have an increasing slope. Notice I'm putting an arrow. That's going to be important, because when we go to second derivative, we're going to use a different symbol. Okay, so now I'm going to go into this interval. Okay, so this interval, and again, notice I'm using my first derivative. So I'm plugging into the first derivative function. So between -3 and 1, 0 is a great value. Anytime you're working between negative and positive, just use 0. So here we go. My 3 is still positive. When I plug 0 in here, 0 minus 1 is a negative. When I plug 0 in here, 0 plus 3 is a positive. Positive times negative times positive means the whole thing is negative, so it's going downhill. Now, if you go back a couple videos, we looked at the graph. Where it goes up and then down, you have a maximum. Okay, it's increasing, it hits 0, and then it goes down to decreasing. So this -3 is a maximum. Okay, it goes up and then down, it's a maximum. Now I'm going to test this interval. So again, I'm using my derivative. I can plug in anything I want. I'm going to use 10 because I like 10. 3 is positive again. When I plug 10 in here, 10 minus 1 is a positive. When I plug 10 in here, 10 plus 3 is a positive. Positive times positive times positive means the whole thing is positive. So it is going to go increasing. So again, when you have a decreasing slope, it hits 1 and then it goes to increasing. You're going down and then up. This means this value is my minimum. So I have found my relative extrema, my maximum and my minimum. Okay, I'm going to stop here and then we're going to restart.